song. Walk right up to the sun, hand in hand. Woo! We'll walk right up to the sun. We will win. We'll walk right. Okay, that's enough. These poor people. I'm sorry, everybody.
But it's a good jam.
They don't want to endure my singing. These ladies are the singers. If you have not checked them out, please go to her at her Castle Girls. I also have something on my own Instagram, Toshiba Monique, if you follow me, of my girls singing a Jet remake. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us.
Hey, everyone. How was your week? I hope it was good.
So, this is going to be a very difficult topic. And so I'm going to say excuse me in advance if I happen to maybe shed a tear. I do have lashes on, so I'm trying not to, but I do have like a paper at the side. Should I just shed a little bit of a tear? Because...
We'll try to find a tissue box.
I know.
You know, when the tears start flowing,
it just may.
Things get evoked inside. It's going to be a very... It's going to be a tough
emotional,
hour.
guys.
It's going to be something, but we're doing this to help others. This isn't about us, and we feel that sharing our stories, even if we help one person, we've helped one more person that we would have if we didn't have this. So, this week's topic, if you do not know, is called, ladies, Suffering in Silence. So, it's going to be a mental health topic. It's going to be a personal topic for all of us. And for the first time, many of you watching will hear our stories. It's funny, this morning I had to sit with my daughter because, you know, I also have her watch the show, and I had to go through some things with her because I didn't want her to find out on the show for the first time.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
And Mom, if you're watching too, you might hear some things. But it's
It's going to be tough.
It's hard. I mean, it's never easy or simple to talk about the genesis of trauma or emotional problems that you end up having in adulthood.
Yeah.
Yes.
And in adulthood, the thing that sucks is that it's not like we can run to mama and hug her hip or put our head on her lap and she can say, everything is going to be okay. You know, we're not in that 5-year-old, 6-year-old mindset where that helps. Mm-hmm. And I think this is why in our community we suffer greatly because there is no simple fix for these issues that we face.
And it's funny because, you know, part of what we talk about in our call is we talked about these are the faces of mental health. This is what mental health in our community looks like. There is this idea that people who are suffering from mental health are at home in their beds, not leaving in the dark under the covers. And quite frankly, they don't look like us. They don't look like anything we look like, because usually we associate mental health, even to this day, with white people.
That's it.
And we'll talk about the Bell Let's Talk campaign later on and why that is. But we are the faces of mental health. I know that when I publicly came out on Facebook, I think it was like 2018, I had a lot of people in my inbox just going, oh my God, I would never have known. And I'm like,
It's almost like, you know, like a functioning alcoholic. We're functioning through life as we're going through our mental well-being.
We're living with
We just try to keep up. And like you guys were saying, there is a stigma, especially amongst our people, where we're so used to having a strong face. We're always used to being the powerful ones, the ones that can carry anything through anywhere to anyone. So when we have something that hurts us deep inside, that's affected us, we hide it. We bury it deep.
As deep as we
can possibly bury it.
Yes.
We're going to talk about this as well, but the only problem with burying it so deep is, you know, that person can say just one word that opens a box that you wish to God you never had to open.
Yeah. And it's funny, when we're planning this, it's turned into a 2-part episode.
Yes.
Because what we realized is that we needed to talk about the label of the strong black woman and black men don't cry, and the impact that is. And we definitely wouldn't have an hour to talk about it. Everything we need to talk about and that. So this is actually going to be a 2-part episode where next week we're going to talk about the negative impact that the strong black woman label and the black men don't cry label is doing in our community. So we are going to start talking about each of our stories, but before I go into that, because we're going to start always in alphabetical order, I'm going to say this. Our silence is killing us.
It is.
Like, it is literally killing us. Mental health is a silent killer, because what we do not recognize, because many of us don't think about it, is when you're suffering here, physiologically, your body is going through certain things. And we have to wonder why we are having some of the alarming rates we're having in terms of diabetes.
Yes.
High blood pressure.
Exactly.
And all of these obesity is happening in our community, and that's the ways people are dealing with what we're going through. And we're going to touch on it a little bit later in the show about race-based trauma and the fact that just getting up in the morning being black, being a person of color, just waking up in the morning, being a person of color, and I'm going to specifically talk about being a black woman.
Yes.
That's hard. And then when I have to go out into the rest of the world, and the rest of the world has their labels and their titles and everything that I have to endure, and I have to take, that I put in the back of my mind.
That's it.
Like you were saying earlier, because we're not dealing with, because we can't. So we wanted to talk about it so that it wouldn't be silent, you know, and I'm going to mention a few other mental health advocates who've been around for a few years, and send you guys to some resources. But we are going to start with telling a bit of our stories. And Carcia's going to go first.
These things always, like, there's a pattern here where everything gets harder and harder.
Right?
So I took my glasses off because I need to see all the fogginess to get through this. But, so I am a face of mental illness, and when I realized that I had a problem, it was not in to talk about mental health. There were no Instagram accounts. There were no Facebook pages. There were no advocates that were posting daily on resources for mental health. I am a child of the church. My parents are both Christian. I grew up in a Christian home. Every single one of my sisters, there's 4 of us, and all of us are, you know, saved, baptized, and grew up in church, went to Sunday school, did all the things that are supposed to set you up for a joyful, hallelujah, happy life. I realized, actually, that I was depressed for a lot longer than I thought I was. I was depressed as a teenager and didn't know. And I was always in school, very active in school, doing all these things, but I kept myself hyper busy. I was always doing stuff in school and keeping myself very busy, working, doing all these things. And I never had a time to feel. I never had a time to go through any emotions. I went to school. I went through my studies in journalism, still working in music at the same time. And then I graduated school. And it was time for me to get jobs and to do well and to apply what I learned. And it was then that I cracked. And I basically became suicidal. I had no idea what was happening to me. And one day, after weeks and weeks of feeling like I wanted to kill myself, I came out to my parents to say, I want to die. And they did not understand what that meant. They thought, she's lost it. She's officially lost it. Her mind is not what it should be. So I seek therapy, and I started seeing a therapist once to twice a week. I had to get into the gym. I started picking up different therapies. There's a therapy called tap therapy, where you tap certain parts of your body to feel better. Even doing it now, I'm like, ooh, this is better than telling this story, because this is a lot. And then I realized that I had to find the strength in myself to get out of this. And praying it out was not enough. Guys, I went to the altar, okay? I went to the altar and I prayed. And I cried. And it was a way of therapy. I believe in crying. I believe crying is very important. Have your own pity party. You got to do it. But I was crying in the car. I was crying at friends. I would try to get out there. I would go to concerts. I would go out and I would be like, I'm going to have a good time. I'm going to get through this. But I just could not get over it. And a lot of people thought, she's faking it because she looks great. Like, your clothes are always on point. And I'm like, and we're going to discuss this. Yep. Mental illness does not look the same on everybody. Everyone has their own experience. This is my experience. And in my experience, I looked great.
Yes.
But inside, I was a mess. And my fantasy, this is messed up, was to get into my car and drive it straight into a cement wall. That was what I was, this is going to sound messed up, guys, but I was excited to do this. And I had to talk myself out of it every single day going to and from work. And I had a towel with me for tears, because Kleenex, I would have ran out of Kleenex in like 30 minutes. So I had to use a towel, to wipe tears away. But through myself pushing therapy, doing the things, eating right, going to the gym, because I realized it's even a chemical imbalance. Like, you can see this. If they were to do a scan on my brain, even now, there's probably damage that has been done because I was so sad for so long. And now what I try to do is help people, as we are doing here today. I shared my experience with Fashion Magazine, actually. Here's the magazine. It was written by a good friend of mine, Maddie. She wrote a story about how music coincides with how you feel. With stress. Do you want one of us to read it? Depression. Sure. It's just like, I don't know if you want to relive it. Sure.
It's up to you.
Well, basically the story is about how being depressed actually stopped me from doing things like pursuing music the way how I should have. Stopped me from collaborating and even talking to friends. And what made me realize I was depressed and needed help was music. I went to a Duran Duran concert. Yeah. And it was at this Duran Duran concert. Everybody was having a great time. People were dancing. You know, they're kind of a funky band from England. So everyone's dancing. Everyone's having a great time. And I was standing there saying, why is everyone so damn happy? Yeah. Why can't I be happy? And I burst out crying at this concert like an idiot. And people were dancing and having a good time. And I was just in tears, wondering when I can enjoy myself like this. And that's when I realized, girl, you aren't gonna live very long. Whether you end up dying of sorrow, of a broken heart, or dying because you did yourself in. And I didn't want either. So I told, it was literally like two sides. Yes. Mr. Jekyll, Dr. Hyde, whatever it is. And it was me saying to myself, girl, pick yourself up. You got to get out of this. And therapy helped so much. Guys, I can't speak more of how important therapy is, because it helped me realize myself. And it helped me realize what I was doing to myself was actually killing myself. I mean, you've probably, if you follow me on social media at all, you've probably seen photos of me bald, without hair, and that's because of alopecia. And alopecia set in because my depression just took over every single follicle of my body, and I lost my hair due to it. So, guys, this is not just a, I don't feel good today, so, and people saying, oh, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. It's more than that.
Way more than that.
It literally, cold sores, your kidneys, you're having problems because mental illness literally affects you physically. Yep. And people don't talk about that. So today, I'm hoping that in sharing our stories, we can inspire people to seek help, to seek the resources, and we're going to go a bit into the issues there, because therapy is hell of expensive. Very expensive. Spend a lot of money on therapy, guys. If I were to pull out receipts and tell you how much I've spent since my 20s, and I'm 40 now. And that's how long I've been dealing with it. And that's how long I've been paying for therapy.
And we recognize the barriers to
Yes.
therapy. You know,
Yes.
we recognize that there is a barrier to therapy.
Yes.
And disproportionately, those within our community are not either seeking therapy or able to even afford therapy. And why would you? Because therapy is expensive. Like, it's not cheap to sit down and talk to someone who is going to help you break down all, and it's trauma. I mean, you know, when I tell my story, mine's is trauma. Like, it is race-based trauma, family trauma, you know, trauma you put on yourself, just trauma in your life that you don't even realize. And I sit with my therapist, who I think is awesome, and I'm going to plug her when I tell my story because I think she's great. But she has to try to help me break that down, and I recognize how fortunate I am to have that. How fortunate that I've been put in a position to be able to afford to do that, but I also know that some people aren't. I mean, when you tell your story, which is about to, we can talk about some of the other things. So, Carcia, thank you.
Yes. Yes.
You did it.
So I did it.
You survived.
And, you know, rejection, that was my thing. That was the
one.
set-off for my depression. But go ahead. Your story.
Yeah, my depression, like you ladies were saying, I mean, talking to a therapist is hella important. Me, I didn't. I decided to take the cheaper route because therapy is incredibly expensive. But for my depression, I have a tendency to carry the entire universe on my shoulders. Whether it's an action that's happened because of me, or an action that maybe someone that's close to me has done, and I feel like I have to carry that person's burden. Growing up, as Carcia mentioned, both of our parents are Christians and baptized. Love you, Jesus. But a lot of things, things that I've seen happen that my parents had to go through, that my sisters have to go through, that I had to live, I ended up, starting to question a lot of things. And because I was questioning things, well, God, why did have this happen to that person? Why am I the way I am? Why am I so shy? Why am I letting that person, make me feel less of a person? Why am I accepting it? I grew up in, especially in the early 90s in Mississauga. We were like the only black kids.
We were literally the only white kids.
We were only black kids in our...
Had no black friends
for a very long time. And it's funny, there's an incident, and I guess this is probably where the depression kicked in. I remember it clearly. I was in, this is long, I was in grade 1. And something happened where I got a cut on this hand. This hand, because the mark is still kind of there. And it was a deep cut, so my teacher was cleaning it up for me. And two of my white friends, Danya and Anna.
Wow, you remember their names.
Danya and Anya. They came up to me and they were like, Chantel, this is good news. You're starting to turn white. If you go home and shower and just keep scrubbing your arm, you'll turn white. So me being the fool, so excited, when I went home, of course I hopped in the tub and started scrubbing. Mom comes into the bathroom and she's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm trying to turn white. Because my friends told me that I've already began because I got this cut. So if I keep on scrubbing myself, maybe I'll turn white. And I think that's where my mentalness, that's probably where I collect.
White is right and
white is right and black is wrong.
Yeah.
And from there, I just started, not really loving myself. As school went on, I started getting really chubby. Like, I would eat a lot. I know it doesn't look like it now, but trust me. Trust me, I was a big kid. And I would just eat, and I'd eat, and I'd eat. When kids would, make fun of me, my hair was nappy, and I used to wear cute little, Lauryn Hill twists, because I love Lauryn Hill. So I wanted to be like Lauryn Hill, so I twist my hair. My friends would say, why do you have your hair like that? Why does your hair feel like cotton? Da-da-da-da-da. Just a lot of crap. Kids can be cruel. Remember that. And then as an adult, once again, I should have seeked for therapy, but I would use also retail. I would go into the Black Beauty Supply store.
Yeah, a lot of us do
okay,
it.
I'm going to buy another wig. Okay, I'm going to buy another pair of shoes. Okay, I'm going to look cute so that I don't have to feel the depression sitting in. Well, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that.
Yes, girl.
People constantly saying, why aren't you married yet? Why aren't you this yet? Why are you still living at home? Why don't you have kids yet? Why don't this? Why? And it got to the point, guys, where I was like, okay, if someone asks me why one more time, it's not going to be pretty. But I think the timeout part for me came one day when I was, and this was last year. This was last year, but this was a big one for me. This is when I stopped myself, saying, "Okay, now I've got to stop." I was getting ready to go to work, and I was on the train. I wasn't on the train. I was at the GO train station, and I woke up. I just didn't want to go because that's another you don't want to know. I didn't want to go, and I remember my dad dropped me off at the train station. And one thing with me was towards the end I was very vocal with how I was feeling. Yeah. Before I used to keep it inside, but then it got to the point where it was too painful.
Gotta let it
so
out.
I would complain, and I'd complain to Car, I'd complain to Mom, I'd complain to anyone to listen, just to get it out. But this particular day, and it happened in June, I think. I was gonna get on the train. I saw the train coming, and I was standing right at the yellow line, and Satan's real, all right? He was just like, Chantel, you know what? You're in all this body pain. You don't like yourself a lot at all right now. Just step into the train track. Let the train just take you because you're not, just do it. And I had to really, when I heard that thought, and then that's never happened to me before. I was never a fan of myself, but I never got to the suicide part before. And this was a new thing for me. So as I heard that going on in my head, I was like, you know what? I just backed up because I knew that if I don't want this, I don't want that. And that work that day, I was just not talking to anyone. I didn't want to look at anyone. I was paranoid. As the year kept on going, as you know, especially with last year, I started getting the body pains. Because of the depression and the anxiety that I get, you guys can attest to this. Like, I can't even eat normal food. My appetite, my stomach is whacked, all because of the depression that I put on myself. Yes. And but if it wasn't for God, I thank God for the family that I have, for the friends that I have, for the grace that He somehow gives me. Because I didn't take therapy, I spent a lot of time either complaining to my family and going on YouTube. And Carcia, she introduced me to meditation. I started doing meditation, and that really helped a lot. It helped more than YouTube did.
Mindfulness.
Yes, mindfulness. And, being okay with going through those waves of, oh my God, shaking and feeling like, oh my God, what's happening to me? Why do I feel these anxieties? Why do I feel this? But embracing and saying, okay, close your eyes, focus, own it. Just stay still, let the wave come through, and then it will just ease away on its own. And I feel better after that. So that's I don't know, that's my messed up brain.
No, your brain's not messed up. Your brain is quite normal, and I think that's what we often get in our community. They're musty mud. Yeah. Right? In Jamaica, pure mud people, the mud people them, and they obiotech them and all kinds of stuff. And for the Jamaicans who are listening, right? Like that is, the Santeria or whatever you believe in, that's how people with mental illness and mental health, and they call it a problem. It's not a problem. We're not suffering from it. We're living with it.
We're living with it.
We live with it every day. I'm not suffering from everything. Though we call it suffering silence, there's a reason we called it that, right?
Yes.
But we're living with it. This is something that I live with. And it's not something that I should be ashamed of. But in my story for years, I was. It was... I have seasonal depression, right? I was telling the girls, I hadn't left my house since Tuesday until I had to go to the grocery store yesterday. And I literally sat there for about 30 minutes and mentally had to get myself up to go outside. So it was easy for me to say that I have seasonal depression. People got that. People were very, oh girl, I get it. It's cold outside. It was just, so they relate to the fact when I said that I had seasonal depression. But I didn't have seasonal depression. I had depression. And I think for me, now in therapy, she goes back and she breaks down and she takes me back to parts of my life. But for me, it came to a real head 2016, 2017. And Nami, if you're watching, I don't know if she is. My best friend Nami saved my life. She did. I was going to kill myself. I had gotten an insurance policy, and I had read the insurance policy, and suicide isn't covered on it, but if I had an accidental death, Tran, my daughter, would get my insurance. And that's where I was. I was ready. I had it in my mind. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew that it had to be an accident, and I was going to figure out an accident. And the thing about me is, if you've ever met me or you know my friends, I'm the strong friend, right? I am the strong friend, and often we don't check on our strong friends, right? Because I am the one who I just get through stuff. I just go. I don't, and you know, when I was in therapy, you know, when I started therapy, I was telling my therapist, I don't have time for that. Like, I don't have time. And she's like, you don't have time for you? Because everything I would say is, I don't have time. And it was, I don't have time to think about this. I just have to keep going. And I don't know what happened, and Nami can type it if she remembers it, but I just, I remember just not being me. And she came to my house, and she sat there. And if I said 10 words to her, I'd probably be lying. She would sit, and she had her laptop, and she sat there. And I would watch a show, and I would it was almost like I ignored her presence, but her presence saved my life.
Yes.
Oh, definitely.
Definitely.
Yes.
For sure.
And, you know, when you're going through this, you need allies in your life. And so when you've got that strong friend that seems like something is going wrong, guys, check on your strong friend. And I didn't mean to be the strong friend. That's just how I had lived my life. I had to go through, this is what I had to do, because if I have to get to the top, if I have to be better, I have to be stronger, I have to be everything. I don't have time to stop and think and feel. Like, who has time for that? Who has time to feel? I've got enough to feel. Like, if I had to feel everything I had to endure, I would be in a, like, literally in the fetal position right now. So I just didn't feel. I went through life not feeling. And then one day I felt, and it didn't feel so great. And it almost broke me. But the thing about it is, I didn't seek therapy after that. It took me a second. And I remember going to the 2018 Black Beauty Brunch. And Dr. Natasha Brown was speaking. And the Black Beauty Brunch is a place for women of color to come together. And so it felt like a really safe space. And I thought, wow, they've got, like, we're going to talk about therapy. Really? Like, we're going to, you know what I'm saying? I was like, really? We're going to talk about therapy and mental health?
Yeah.
Because even though there were mental health advocates out there, Stacey M. Buchanan is one of them. We went to high school together. She did the blind stigma. It was just still not something you talked about. I was okay to talk about it with my friends.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
And my best friend Odelia would always say to me, girl, like, I get that you're strong and you've got us, but, you know, I really want you to go and seek therapy. I'd be like, yeah, girl, I'm good. Like, I got you guys, you know, and the Lord, right? Like, you guys and Jesus are what I needed. And Dr. Natasha Brown came up and she started talking about her work. And in that moment, something just happened. And something kind of twisted in me. And I was like, like, she had meant to be in my life at that moment. And I went to her after, and I was speaking to her, and I still didn't go seek therapy. That's the best part. This was like August of 2018, and I still didn't seek therapy. And it was actually an incident with my daughter that made me go and seek therapy, when my daughter admitted to me that she just wasn't feeling so great. And immediately I said, I was with two of my best friends, Natalie and Odelia, sitting in Natalie's house, and immediately I said to them, Trans, she doesn't feel well, something's going on, I have to put her in therapy. Odelia looked at me and went,
interesting.
What about you, though?
What about you?
She said, what about you? And I was like, what, kind of like, what about me? She's like, you love the fact that you're going to go take care of my niece, but what about taking care of you and everything that you have been putting up with and not dealing with? And it's funny, because you would have thought that me wanting to kill I read my insurance policy
Mm-hmm.
just to make sure that Cheyenne would
Be all right.
be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's going really far. Like, I read the, like, I don't care to read it. It's, if you ever read your insurance policy, it's a lot of mumbo jumbo.
True.
It's like, whatever. But I read it because I said, if I go, at least she's financially able to support herself, because she has no need for me anymore. And the thought that if you know me, I love my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
I like, my daughter is my whole heart.
Mm-hmm.
And I look back and think that I was going to leave this earth and leave her alone. That's how my brain was telling me. That's what everything was telling me. I was no longer needed here. So why are you here?
Why are you here? Wow.
Well, I'm not. Why? What am I doing here? The world doesn't need me anymore. I'm good. I'm great. I've had some good lives. Hey, and that still didn't get me. And it was my daughter having a moment that I went, and my best friend Lily had to look at me, have a stern conversation, and thank you, Odelia and Natalie as well. They had to have a conversation with me and like, no, like, you have to do something.
That's it.
And I love my therapist. Her name is Tamara Shaki. I can put her details. She's a psychotherapist. Carcia's also had the opportunity to see her. And everybody does different things. I know for me, therapy and meditation have been very, very big. And I'm going to give you one of the resources I'm going to tell you about for those who are interested in meditation. There is an app, and it's called Liberate. So Liberate. And it's a meditation app specifically for people of color. So there are absolutely other meditation apps, but this one speaks directly to our trauma and directly to the things that we've experienced, because even though it's, family stuff and a lot of stuff we go on, some of it is race-based trauma.
Yes.
Yep.
Just being black.
Yep.
The trauma we endure from just being black.
Just being who we are.
Trying not to be too black.
No.
The story she just told. Trying to own your blackness, trying to be a black face in a white space. And everything that comes with that. And, I've recently been through something that has been very traumatic for me. And, I can't talk too much about it, but it was a race-based trauma that I experienced, and it was something that took me back to being a 9-year-old girl. And you talked about being in grade 1. For me, growing up in Jamaica, I didn't realize I was black.
Exactly.
I just didn't. I was Toshiba, I was Jamaican. I have family from everywhere. I look about my family has got, coolie people as they call them back home, but, Indians, I've got white people in my family, I've got Asian people in my family, I've got all of that. But growing up in Jamaica, playing as a little kid, I was not black. I was Toshiba.
That's it. You were you.
Then I
You're
came to
accepted
Jamaica.
as you.
I came from Jamaica to Canada. And then I was told I was black.
Right.
Yep. It's funny, because that's also how it is with church. Because especially when we were younger, going to church, it was mostly a black-dominated church. So at church, it's like, and then remember I was black. Because everyone in the church was black. So you're like, yeah, this is normal. Yeah. But it's like, as soon as you leave that premise and you go now into the workplace, into your school or whatever, you are literally the only, all of a sudden your color is an issue. It's a thing.
I remember as a child, I was in 2nd grade and I was told that I looked like a monkey.
Okay,
by a little white boy.
Of course.
And I didn't know how to process it because allyship wasn't a thing for 2nd graders in elementary school.
Not the 80s.
So it was just sort of like, yeah, she looks like a monkey. And, and all I could do was just be like, okay.
And that, it brings us to something that we talked about, and we had mentioned it on last week's show about the idea of PTSD. And I'm just going to read the literal meaning of PTSD for those of you. So again, I'm going to be the one who grabs my laptop. But, PTSD stands for post-traumatic stress disorder. And it's a condition of persistent mental and emotional stress occurring as a result of injury or severe psychological shock, typically involving disturbance of sleep and constant vivid recall of the experience with dull responses to others and to the outside world. A lot of the things that we endure as people of color, and we're using it very inclusively because if, people from the South Asian community, from the Asian community, from the indigenous community, we experience it because we're not considered part of the majority. But it's funny, on my Liberate app, there's a lady who calls us the global majority, because when you bring all of people of color together, we're true. Actually the majority.
We're the majority.
We are the majority. And we're not the minority, right?
No.
But in our minds, we are a minority. And we are less than. And it shows through people's characters, through people's word, through you feeling, again, if you are a black face in a white space, what that means. If you're one of, if you're the only one of, what does that mean if I act in a certain way? Because does this take my community back?
Right.
If I'm a black woman in a position of power and I'm sitting at this table and I talk about having to take a silent seat at the table, what does that mean if I speak out?
See, the thing is that,
listen,
unfortunately, in our society, it's very cool right now to be inclusive.
It is.
It's a marketing word. It's a buzzword.
It's a catchphrase.
It's no different than using words like lit. Black is cool. All of these sort of things, they're marketing words. These are words that are being said at the boardroom tables of every single marketing firm in North America. And unfortunately, people want to make a good face. So they're hiring black women, they're hiring black models, they're hiring black people to be on sets. Like, everyone wants to make everything inclusive. But just because you were hired and just because you're there
doesn't mean you have a
voice.
Doesn't mean you actually have a voice.
It doesn't mean you have a voice. It's like, can you please come sit at the table so we can take pictures of you being at the table?
And then once the photos are gone, we're going to kick you out of the seat and put it back to our...
Right. And that is sort of the reality of this situation right now, where we are sitting at the table, maybe I hate to bring up a brand name, but let's say Gucci. Gucci, since their whole foolishness that happened, I'm sure they've bought maybe a black woman to the table to sit down, but are they really taking her perspective of how to market to us? Probably not.
No.
But when they're accused of something like this again, which I know they will, they can say,
our chief diversity officer is
They have
black.
the token black person.
That's it.
Because that's the new role, right? The chief diversity officer. Right. That's a big title now. Everybody is a chief diversity officer.
If you're on LinkedIn, Uber has recently hired one. Every single big brand, Coca-Cola, Disney, it doesn't really matter the corporation name, but they've all hired on this role. But what does it actually mean? And that's a piece of what's causing a lot of feeling less than, feeling sad, feeling depressed, is this idea that you were given a piece of something, but there's still rejection. You're still being rejected because it's like, well, yeah, we want to give you this little name, this title, but we don't actually want your help. We don't want your words of wisdom. We don't want anything from you.
They just want you there as a front, but then you have no say, and they just tell you where to go, what to do, how to do it. But when people come by to say the office or something, they see, oh, well, you have a minority here, so that's good. That's basically what it is.
And so you're in a space where you feel powerless. And for a lot of us, we feel powerless, and then we're not necessarily able to go home and share that in a way that helps us to deal with our mental health, right? Because we've got to transfer everything that we're doing over here to be strong over here.
That's it.
Yep.
Right? That's definitely been my problem. I've had to deal with everything over here and take it.
Yep.
right? Take it all.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then over here, I've got to be the strong Black woman. Again, is a topic we'll talk about fully next week. But, you know, I want to bring up a stat, and I want people to understand the economic impact, because there's an economic impact of mental health, right? Mental health problems are the most common reason for people missing work. Mental illness costs $13 billion
with a B
billion a year to our local economy, and people with mental health problems are more likely to live in poverty than others. Let me be very clear. That's a Canadian stat. It's costing $13 billion a year. Yet, what are we really doing to ensure that the people who do not have the resources, like Carcia and I are very, very blessed, and we recognize that because we've worked at companies that have health insurance, whatever. Personally, my company didn't pay for it because I see a psychotherapist and not a psychologist and whatever. So I have to spend $130 every session to go and see this woman, but I had to invest into myself because I would not be here. And again, I don't know if Nami's watching. If I haven't ever thanked you before, you saved my life. You saved my life.
She knows.
She knows.
And you know, it's interesting because mental health has become, sorry guys, big business.
It is. It's a moneymaker.
It has. I mean, this is why, like, guys, let me tell you, I have 6 apps for meditation on my phone.
Yeah.
and,
a lot on here.
And the thing is, every day there's about 3 more, like, decent ones that... This is an example to show you how mindfulness has literally become the essence of life. People are looking for options. They don't want to be on Prozac. They don't want to take pharmaceutical drugs.
No.
So people are looking for ways in which they can use things from the earth. They can use, you know, divine worship, whatever it is, to solve their problems, because there's so many people out there suffering with depression, anxiety, and because it's a big business, unfortunately, a lot of things that shouldn't cost what they cost now cost a lot. Like Toshiba said, you know, $135
my job wouldn't cover
for
me.
therapy. And even when your workplace is covering it, you're still like, wow, you know, that's a lot of money that a company is paying out. If a company has 150 employees and all of them are in need of this help, that's a lot of money going out. And the issue, again, is I like to talk about food and how, you know, certain chemicals, processed food, it affects our brains. You know, whatever goes in, whether it be negative, whether it be bad food, it's going to manifest outside some way. And we all know going to Whole Foods ain't a reality.
Let me tell you something. I ain't got no money. Okay, I already spent $130 for a therapist.
Thank you.
I ain't got no money to go to Whole Foods and buy your organic or your kale or your whatever. I'm going to go get some kalaloo, okay, and some yam banana. Because I ain't got no money for Whole Foods. And if I'm sitting here and we're saying, which we just said, we have therapy.
Toshiba, Nami's online.
Hi, Nami. Don't even read what you said. It's probably just gonna make me cry. And I'm not a crier, by the way, guys. I don't cry.
No, this is a
my
touchy
therapist,
thing,
Tamar, told me I needed to feel, and ever since she told me that, I've been feeling, and this feeling suck.
Can I
but
tell
it's important
you?
To feel.
Can I tell you, though, that when I went to see Toshiba's therapist, so this is going a bit deep again, but y'all know that anyone that knows me knows I love my wigs. I just love them. I'm Diana Ross, Cher.
Yeah. It's like a fancy hat.
But the thing is, I really didn't start wearing them until alopecia affected my life and affected more so my mental health, because now I was like, great, I feel like crap and now I'm ugly.
Because that's the worst.
Because losing your hair as a woman is not fun.
As a black
woman.
And we don't know how us women love our hair, especially the black women. Come on. So that's a lot.
And when I went to see Tamar, I came in and we were chatting, and I had my walls up because looking for a therapist is not easy, guys. It's the hardest thing in the world, finding a therapist, finding someone you trust. And she said to me, she's like, you know, you have a lot of walls up. There's a lot of levels to you. And I'm like, I guess, I don't know. And she's like, okay, well, you told me about the alopecia thing. She's like, can you show me? And that is where, boom, boom, the walls started to fall down, because she reminded me of what depression had done to me. And I showed her what is going on under here. And right now it's even actually better, because I'm healing my body and hair is starting to grow back. So it's actually better now. But then I was completely bald. And I took my head covering off and immediately bust out crying. Like I had lost a baby, or I had lost my child. And
the mask was gone.
The mask was gone. And Toshiba mentioned it. You live with your depression. You live with your trauma.
You do.
And me losing my hair was very traumatic, because I loved it so much. And being reminded that it was gone was like, you know, it was almost like sort of a, how dare you remind me of why I'm in this place? Why, how dare you? But it was such a relief to know that, you know what, this has happened, but you can't live there. And we're living in these moments sometimes. And it takes allies. It takes, I hate using terms like village and tribe. I hate that. But it takes a city. It takes a community. It takes a community to get you out of your depression, whether it be manifesting in ways, again, everyone has their own experience, but finding a therapist is, if you can afford it, it's great. And I know that government stuff usually sucks, but sometimes there are resources. The only issue with the government, and we're going to talk about Belle Let's Talk, is that it's very, 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 very Caucasian.
Because look at my laptop.
They've been oppressed, and we haven't.
Can we just go into that?
Yes, we're going to go straight into Belle Let's Talk. Please talk about your Belle Let's Talk.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
So I have a girlfriend. Because we deal in social media, we have a lot of friends that deal with public speaking, panels, and it was brought to my attention. And guys, I get messages like this every day. So there's a problem, and no one cares to solve it. But Belle, let's talk. She sent me the flyer for which they were going to have a panel to talk about mental health. 3 white men, and they looked straight. I hate to say that they looked straight, but they looked straight. And then 3 white women that also looked hella straight. And she said, Carcia, this is a panel for World Mental Health Day.
World Mental Health Day.
She's like, why is this still happening in 2020? And I said to her, I was like, you mean they couldn't find one
minority
person? Not one indigenous person, not one Asian person, not one Indian, not one gay guy, not one gay woman.
And that's the dry part.
Like, they were literally like, please look at this vanilla panel.
And that's the dry part. Toronto isn't Toronto the most international?
It's the most diverse city in the world.
So how is it that it's pure white people on this panel?
Talking about
their experiences with mental health. No, I know that mental health affects everyone, so I'm not saying that they shouldn't find. But you mean you couldn't find even one?
At this point, tokenism would have saved that panel.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Having one person of color, at this point it doesn't even matter what color, would have made a difference. But it affected myself because I said, no offense, but what is Ryan Simpson going to tell me about
how's he relating to you?
Mental health experience? Does he know what it's like to be a black female in 2020?
Well, that's the dry part, because now anyone that's a person of color sees this flyer and they're just instantly shut down. Think, well, there's no point
doesn't represent
in me. Exactly, there's no point in me investing in this because no one on this panel looks like me. So I will continue living in silence.
And that's why silence is killing us. Because even when we are to try and seek help, there are so many white therapists. And quite frankly, I'm not sitting down with a white male to talk about my problem, because generally you want to relate with someone. You want someone who gets it. Like, my therapist, she's a lovely lady. She comes from Israel. She considers herself a person of color. And so when I went through my most recent traumatic experience in my professional life, and I went to her and told her about it, she understood.
That's it.
I didn't have to give a backstory as to why what I had experienced had put me in a place, because then what would be the point of my therapy?
Exactly.
I'd be giving you an idea of my background of how to help me. That doesn't work. And that's why a lot of us aren't going to therapy. And now what's actually, amazing and probably a long time coming is that they're having a Black Mental Health Day. Yes. And we're going to put that up in the comments. I know that I'm definitely going to be attending. If I'm not mistaken, it's March 2nd. Go to blackmentalhealthday.ca. If I've gotten it wrong, we're going to have it in the comments. But as of March, it's blackmentalhealthday.ca, guys. Sorry, I just had to go look at my notes. So it's Black Mental Health Day, because they're recognizing that we haven't had a voice. So, if you happen to work for Bell and you're watching this, can you have them reach out to us?
Please.
Yeah, I would love to speak to them, because, guys,
you guys need some reconstruction.
Literally every day, people send me posters of panels for things that have to do with mental health. It used to be beauty, but beauty's changed. Beauty's changed a bit, so not so much beauty anymore. But mindfulness is white.
And it's serious.
Yeah, and I want you to really let that saturate inside. You don't see enough photos of me, doing yoga, or meditating. When I used to tell my brothers and sisters that I was meditating, they had thought that I was starting to serve. They're like, you're serving the devil now? You're a Buddhist? I'm like,
because
no.
According to, look in society, Black people don't do yoga.
And we do. We do all
Black
of
people
this
don't
stuff.
meditate.
We do all of
Black
this
people
stuff.
don't cry.
No, we don't. No, we're going to talk about that next week. Yeah, we ain't supposed to cry.
And I do want to shout out to Fitzroy.
Fitzroy!
Thank you for...
Amazing rentals for any occasion.
No, not that Fitzroy.
Oh,
that Fitzroy?
It's my Fitzroy Gate, right?
Yeah.
Oh, Fitzroy Gate! Fitzroy! I like your name.
I just want to say thank you for your message. And yes, like black men are dealing with a lot.
And this is why we had to make next week an entire topic.
It's literally going to be based fully on...
But the idea of the Black women, again, are so strong, this whole Black strong woman, and then Black men don't cry. And what that's actually doing to us as a community. So please, next week, listen out for that. But, to continue, with what Carcia is saying, well, a lot of the times we don't seek therapies because it's a white girl problem.
Yeah.
I don't, I was like, depression, it's a white girl problem. That's not a me problem. I got things to do. Like, life is hard. I'm Black. Like, gotta keep going. And when you have something like a Bell Let's Talk, or something where you're supposed to be representative of the entire spectrum of mental health, because there's a spectrum of mental health, and we talked about it earlier. You mentioned it. There is no one face to mental health.
No.
But when you put on a panel where there are only white faces, you're sending a very clear message that this is what mental health looks like.
Exactly.
And this middle class or upper middle class, because we have to now have value, and because our life is so hard being white, that's the message that you send to everybody else. Your voice no longer matters. So Bell, again, if you work for Bell or know some, please have them reach out to us, because I'd like to talk.
Yeah,
please.
Let's talk.
Yeah,
let's talk.
I know of many Black speakers and panelists that could speak to, and I'm not just saying, me or us.
No. Stacey Ann Buchanan.
Yeah.
Stacey, if you ever watched this.
Plenty of
she had a whole documentary called The Blind Stigma dealing with, and I've known Stacey Ann since high school. I finally actually this week watched it. It took a lot for me to watch it. I denied my mental health for so long. And, you know, to this day, like I said, I'm not suffering from it. I'm living with it. I just went through something yesterday where I realized I was going back down that route. And my friends pulled me out because they're like, girl, like, who are you? Like,
and that's it. People think that's a quick fix. That's easy. That once you do a therapy session or once you do a few taps here and there, all of a sudden you're healed. You're not. It's a lifelong thing. We were talking about this. We were saying that, you know, we're living with depression. As in, when you wake up in the morning, it's there. When you're eating your breakfast, hey, guess what? It's still there. It's literally taking mind over matter. It's like living with a bad boyfriend that you can't get rid of because it's you. You can't get dealing with
yourself.
You don't get dealing with yourself. You don't compartmentalize and say, well, I'm going to take this part of me. I'm just going to put you over here.
Can't do that. If it was that easy, we would do that. You can't do that.
I just want to, I do want to really push on the fact, and also I just want to say, Nessa, thank you for your lovely message. I just want to say you do matter. I don't care what the hell Bell Let's Talk is showing us by what they're doing with their marketing and their stupid panel.
We matter.
But we do matter, and you matter.
You matter, Nessa.
Okay.
And this is why we're here. And this is why, again, I go back to advocates like Stacey Ann. And shout out to Stacey Ann for doing what she was doing, because I understand, coming from a Jamaican family, we're all Jamaican, how hard this can be. I know my mother's probably going to be watching this, and I don't think my mother ever knew that I was, you know, this might be very difficult for my mother to know that her daughter thought about killing herself and leaving her granddaughter by herself. But we don't talk about it. And so when we have people who are in our community that's talking about it and we're being ignored, blatantly ignored.
It's almost like a genocide, right? It's like, well, we don't care what happens to the black community or any POC, so they can just lose their minds and go throw themselves in Lake Ontario.
And, you know, I can't.
That's what it feels like.
I can't speak fully about it
because they don't care, because they don't.
I'm not Indigenous, but even to see, a lot of problems could be avoided if people were given the opportunity to get therapy. The Indigenous community is suffering heavily because ain't nobody going out there to help these people.
How many women and children get raped and they go missing? You never hear about it.
Who is helping?
Who's helping them?
Nobody.
When a black person goes missing, it's like, oh,
I guess they're
but
gone.
if little white Sue goes down the street and all of a sudden, Amber Alert!
There's an Amber Alert
for little Sue because she's a cute little blonde girl.
This is and we wonder why we have these issues, and so this is why we actually created this platform, to be able to have discussions in ways that we're not seeing in the general media. I am not necessarily seeing women of color coming out. And like I said, if we help one person with this, if we impact one person, I don't know what Nessa wrote, but Nessa, we can reach out to you after and give you some resources. But the reality is, we all matter. Society, despite what we are seeing out there, we matter. Our voices matter. And so we need to come together. And again, this is why we're doing this, and we're going to, again, put some resources. Again, there's the Black Mental Health Day. I don't have a ton about it, but if you go to the website, they haven't put up everything, but I know I'm definitely going to be there to support, because they're going to have it this March and every March after. There's, again, look up Stacey Ann's show, The Blind Stigma. It's available on YouTube. Like I said, I watched it for the first time, and it's not that I didn't mean to support it before, Stacey, and if you're watching it, it was just very difficult.
It's hard.
There's also a new show called In Living Color. I think it's CBC that does it. And they actually recently talked about mental health in the community. And again, Liberate the app. It is free $99. And they do talks, they do mindfulness. My therapist recommended it. I highly recommend it. There are other apps that, you know, I've used, and I actually won't shout them out right now. The reason I won't shout them out is because I've had to actually reach out to them and say how elitist I think their apps are, because they're creating a barrier to people healing themselves. Because when you are putting $109.99 a year or whatever your thing is, for people to close their eyes and breathe, I'm sorry. That's a problem. So I won't shout those apps out because they want to
they're looking for profit.
They're looking for profit because they're capitalizing on our mental health. You can seek those apps out. You can look up meditation apps.
There's some good ones
popular ones
on YouTube as well. That are, once again,
there's a lot of free ones. I mean,
there's a lot of free ones.
There's a free one, Insight Timer.
Insight Timer. I have over 35,000 free ones.
Just a tip on meditating, yoga. Start small. Start with a minute. Start with 2 minutes, and just continue doing it. Don't stop doing it, guys. It is
You'll feel
so healing. It is a great way to start your journey to treating your mental health.
And investing into yourself. It's funny, I'm going to shout out Stacey Ann again, because Stacey Ann recently had something on her Facebook post, and it was talking about the fact that a lot of people in the Christian community feel as if when you meditate, like it's a whole devil's situation. No. And she said something that I thought was very interesting. She says, we pray to God. I go to church. I'll be in church tomorrow morning. Shout out to Pastor Miko. And we pray to God because God's there to hear us. And we pray and we pray and we pray and we pray. Meditation is an opportunity for you to listen to God.
Yeah.
You do all this praying on your knees and Jesus, Father, help me, and I'm like, when do you get to listen to God? So even though if you're a very religious person, you're watching this and you think, oh Lord, this is actually your opportunity to stop and listen.
And that's an important thing to remember too, because every day we're talking, we're moving, we're getting so distracted that you don't really listen to the friend that told you, hey, you know what, Shiva, what's going on? You're not listening to, hey, Car, you all right? Like, because we're always going. So it's so important to just stay still. Forget the pot, forget the pan, forget what you're doing. Just sit and be still and listen.
Because you're investing into yourself.
That's exactly it. That speaks volumes.
Yeah,
that's
and
important.
just a word for people that are, maybe you're a bit secular and you're not as spiritual. Meditation is a time to be still, and it's a place of gratitude. One friend that I have, and it's funny, he's Indian, but he is very much into meditation. And he was like, Carcia, I use meditation as a place of gratitude, where I can literally just sit there and be thankful that my heart is beating. And I'm like, that's the thing, like the idea that you're taking the time to focus on your heart beating, focusing on your breath, just that's it. Wow, I'm breathing in and now I'm breathing out, and doing that for even 5 minutes
changes everything.
Guys, you gotta do
Sometimes I'll be on my app.
Everything.
And the music, because I'll even listen to like a guided one or just music ones, and the song will be over and I'll be like so far gone. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
And I feel like a new person.
Yeah.
My brain is relaxed, my body is relaxed, like I feel amazing.
So we've got about a minute, 2 minutes I'm going to give us at the most. So a couple of things. I think we talked about medication.
Yes.
Food was another thing we talked about. And we're not saying we're not to whole foods, but be mindful of what you're putting in your body. Exercise has saved me. People look at me and go, well, you're 40, you look so great, you work out. Let me tell you something. I don't work out for the way I look.
No,
it is a benefit.
It's a cherry on top.
If you still watch, you know what a benefit it's been for me.
It's the cherry on top.
However, for me, it's the thing that helps me to take a second, and it's about me. It's the endorphins that go through. It's actually before I went to therapy, working out is what helped me. Look at these resources. Again, we're going to put up a few, the Black Mental Health Day, the Liberate app. I highly, highly recommend the Liberate app. And if you're seeking therapists, please let us know. I've got a website for the U.S. I haven't found one for Canada yet that will help you find, if you're in the U.S., any state that you're in will even connect you to a Black therapist or a person of color who you can relate to. So if you watched the show last week, you know that we're going to end the show with kind of what's your takeaway from the show?
Yeah.
Carcia.
So my takeaway today is that I have to continue treating the mental health that I'm living with. I can't cut it out of my brain.
No.
I can't do a biopsy and figure it all out. It's continuous, and consistency is the only way to truly treat my mental health. So I'm going to make that a focus, and I made that a focus in 2020. I was like, I will not compromise my mental health for anything.
No.
You spoke a word.
That's my takeaway.
My takeaway is to be aware of my feelings, because like we were saying, it is something that you live with on the daily, and it is easy to just slip down that slippery slope again. But I need to, and this is something I'm still working on as we were talking about, but I need to just continue to, when I feel that feeling setting in, to tell myself, okay, stop, time out. Either you go meditate, if you take a nap, or you go and you talk to someone about it, but do not ignore it. Be coherent of what's going on, and try your best to understand what's going on and pull it out. Be aware, be present of your feelings so that you don't fall back in that slippery slope. That's my takeaway.
Oh my God, that's very similar. I'm going to probably say very similar to the same thing is, one, being mindful, being aware, and owning it. I spent many years ignoring it, running away from it, thinking that there's no way I can do this. And the resources, I think if, the resources that we just talked about were around, years ago, I probably would have gone to seek help years ago. But again, we are disenfranchised and ignored a lot of the times in these things. So be mindful, invest into yourself. You are the best investment you will ever make.
Preach.
Yeah.
We are the best investments we will ever make. We only get this one chance. If you drive a BMW, guess what? You don't go and put regular gas in it, because that BMW is not going to go very far. What are you going to do? You're going to go to the gas station. You're going to put the premium gas.
That's it.
Doesn't matter how high it is, because your car will not run. Invest into you. We are the best investments we ever have, and we need to start, despite what the outside world may do, it is important that we invest into ourselves.
Yep.
So that would be
use those community resources. You can't afford yoga, there's tons of beginners yoga on YouTube. There's
YouTube lessons for free.
Community services where they have it for free. You can start investing today. So
take the stairs.
Even
you don't need a gym membership.
Even like on the spot to start marching. Like there's so much things you can do right where you are. You don't have to be part of the gym.
Celebrate, and I know I said we had here's the last thing I'm going to say. Celebrate all of your victories, no matter how small.
And that's it.
The fact that you got up the fact that I left for the grocery store, I celebrated. I put clothes on.
You showered
because I didn't want to leave my house. Right?
Celebrate
your small victories, because the world will tell you you're not enough. You are enough.
And the world needs you. You may not see it because of who you are, but you'll be surprised. The world needs you.
People are out there rooting for you. You might think you're alone, but you're definitely not.
We're rooting for you.
I'm rooting for you.
I'm rooting for y'all. Don't forget it. This was a rough one, though. This is
tough. So, and we're going to tackle it again next week. Next week, join us for the, we haven't titled it yet, but, I'll do my promo videos because we rule the world. We're trying to rule the world.
Yes. Hit us up.
But, we're going to talk about the effects of the strong black woman and Black Men Don't Cry label, which is another thing. So thank you all for joining us. We're going to have some resources after the show. Again, please tell your friends. Not Your Typical Girl Talk, Facebook group, Instagram. We're also on YouTube, 3 p.m. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, guys.
And if we helped one person, all of what I just went through and gave you a cry was worth it.
It was
Love you
worth
all.
it. Thank you so much,
you guys.
Enjoy your day.
Thanks again.
Thank you so much. See you next week.
Rule the world. And, Rule the world.
Rule the world.
Rule the world.
That's it.
Right?
And this is a nice little happy dance or something. I need something to get back into. I want to end on that. Yeah, there we go.